All right, today we're going to dive deep into the neck and uncover a really critical piece of neural wiring that, honestly, you've probably never heard of, but you use it literally every single day. We are talking about the Ansa cervicalis.
So what is this thing? What is this super intricate nerve loop that's responsible for powering some of the key muscles in your neck? You know, it's a pretty delicate structure, it's buried deep in some complex anatomy, but it's absolutely essential for movements like swallowing and even speaking.
And the answer is, of course, the Ansa cervicalis. Now, I know the name sounds a little complicated, but the idea behind it is actually beautiful and simple. Ansa is just Latin for loop, and cervicalis means of the neck, so it's the loop of the neck. It's formed from the very first 3 spinal nerves. We're talking C1, C2, and C3. And its main gig is to control a group of muscles called the infrahyoids.
Okay, so before we start assembling this nerve loop piece by piece, let's first get a handle on its purpose. I mean, what is it actually controlling? Well, the answer lies with that group of muscles I just mentioned, the infrahyoids.
So, deep inside your neck, you've got this small U-shaped bone called the hyoid. And what's really cool about it is that it's the only bone in the body that doesn't directly connect to any other bone. The muscles we care about today are the infrahyoid muscles. And just like the name suggests, infra means below, these are 4 strap-like muscles sitting right underneath that hyoid bone.
And here are our 4 key players. As you can see, we've got the sternohyoid, the sternothyroid, the thyrohyoid, and the omohyoid. Now, their names kind of give away where they're attached, like the sternum and the thyroid cartilage. But what's important is that their collective job is to help move the hyoid bone and the larynx, which is absolutely crucial for swallowing and speaking.
Now, let's just zoom in on the omohyoid muscle for a second. It's a little bit of an oddball. Why? Because it's not just one continuous strip of muscle. Instead, it has 2 totally separate parts, or bellies, a superior or upper belly and an inferior or lower belly. Now, keep this 2-part structure in your head because it is key to understanding how the Ansa cervicalis divvies up its work.
All right, we know what the Ansa does. So now for the main event. How is this elegant little loop actually built? Let's put it together, piece by piece. It all starts with our building blocks, those nerve roots from C1, C2, and C3. First, a branch from the C1 nerve root heads down to form what we call the superior root. Simple enough? Next, the C2 and C3 nerve roots get together, they merge, and they create the inferior root. And finally, these 2 roots, the superior one coming down and the inferior one coming up, they travel towards each other and connect. And just like that, the Ansa cervicalis loop is complete.
But there's always a plot twist in anatomy, right? Here's a really key exception to this wiring plan. While C1 contributes to that main loop, it's also playing a double role. It sends out its own separate, direct nerve branches to 2 specific muscles, the thyrohyoid, which is one of our infrahyoids, and the geniohyoid. So what does this mean? It means the thyrohyoid gets its nerve supply straight from C1, totally bypassing the main Ansa loop.
Okay, so let's map this all out. Who's in charge of what? Remember that omohyoid muscle with its 2 bellies? Well, here's the payoff. The superior root innervates the superior belly. The inferior root takes care of the inferior belly. And then, the main Ansa loop itself sends out branches to the last 2 infrahyoids, the sternohyoid and the sternothyroid. See, it's a really beautifully organized system. Okay, so we know what it is, we know what it does, and we know how it's made. The next logical question is, if we were surgeons, where would we actually find this thing? Let's go ahead and pinpoint its exact location.
So the Ansa cervicalis isn't just, floating around freely in the neck. It's actually embedded in the front wall of a structure called the carotid sheath. You can think of the sheath as a kind of connective tissue sleeve that bundles together all the major highways of the neck. I'm talking about the common carotid artery and the internal jugular vein. The Ansa cervicalis is sitting right on the surface of this incredibly important package. And what's really cool is we can use these major vessels as landmarks to find the Ansa. The superior root runs right in front of the common carotid artery, which gives us this fantastic mnemonic, CS. C for common carotid, S for superior root. The inferior root, on the other hand, you'll typically find it looping around that massive internal jugular vein. So these vessels are basically our roadmaps.
So let's just do a quick recap. What are the absolute key takeaways? First, the Ansa cervicalis is a nerve loop from C1, C2, and C3. Its job is to supply 3 of the 4 infrahyoid muscles. Remember, the thyrohyoid is that key exception.
You can find it on the front wall of the carotid sheath. And whatever you do, don't forget that great mnemonic, CS, to place the superior root right in front of the common carotid artery.
So, we've just traced the elegant anatomy of this hidden little command center in your neck. We get its structure, we get its function. But all of this leads to an even more important question. What are the consequences when this intricate wiring gets damaged or disrupted, say during surgery or from an injury? Now that is something to think about.